All right, welcome back to the Trauma Therapist Podcast. My name is Guy McPherson. My mission is to help trauma therapists be their incredible selves, to be human, to be real, not just a clinician. I'm a big believer in who we are is more important than what we know. And this requires cultivating authenticity, genuineness, and vulnerability, and that requires intention. You can learn more about my courses and workshops by going to thetraumatherapistproject.com. That's thetraumatherapistproject.com. Let's get started. So 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, folks, welcome back to the Trauma Therapist Podcast. I am very excited to have as my guest today, Tara Seals. Tara, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Guy. Hey, everyone.
You are welcome. So the Bossy Educator, Tara Seals, is a 3-time best-selling, self-published international author, educator, entrepreneur, philanthropist, and so much more. Tara creates education solutions for K-12 schools, students, and families via consulting, workshops, keynotes, etc. Her latest book, Divorce, The Unspoken Childhood Trauma, landed her on the 20 Black women authors you should know list, along with Nikki Giovanni and former First Lady Michelle Obama. Not too shabby. Tara, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me on the Trauma Podcast, Guy. I'm so excited to be here.
So before we get going, share with the listeners where you're from originally and where you are currently.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee, and I am currently residing in Atlanta. I like to say Atlanta is my base because I travel a lot. I love to travel. So Atlanta is my base. And of course, Memphis it raised me to be who I am, to be the courageous woman that I am. And it also has a lot of stories there as well that I went through, not only as a child, but as an adult as well. And then you have Atlanta. So a good mix of the two for sure. Having a good time.
So let's get into this. How did you get here to this point?
The point of owning the Bossy Educator and becoming the Bossy Educator?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, first I started teaching. I actually have taught grades K through 12, as well as on the collegiate level. And I've also taught at 24-hour residential treatment facilities to kids that as young as 6 years old were addicted to heroin. Truly amazing stories of how these kids overcame and had different challenges. And from there, I actually created Scholarship Foundation, which is Bossy as Bossy Does. I went on to create the Gift Giving for Kids initiative.
Okay, wait, hold on. Yeah, pardon me for interrupting you, but you're skipping. I mean, why did you work with those young kids in the first place?
I've always had a passion to work with kids. My first job, Guy, was at 12 years old. And I worked at the church in the nursery during the time that the preacher was preaching the sermon, which to me as a child was the most boring thing ever. I loved to sing along with the choir. That was my jam at church. So this was an opportunity for me to earn $40 a Sunday, work with kids and teach them how to write, teach them their letters, teach them their numbers and word identification. And that's where my passion for working with kids came from. Even as a student, I helped other kids in the classroom and stuff like that. So I was always into school and I love school. Even to this day, I love school.
So you're the one who loves school.
Yes.
You're that person. You're the only one. No.
I know.
So, okay. But working with kids who are addicted to heroin, you said?
Yes, I had my youngest student that was addicted to heroin was 6 years old. He was introduced to it on the school bus.
Jesus.
The child brought it for show and tell, and he wanted to show what was happening in his house, which oftentimes kids do. And he brought it, and they were curious about it, and it got mixed up around different kids. It was a big ordeal. It was a write-up in the paper about it, blah, blah, blah. And 6 years old. Okay. So I was working in that facility as a teacher because these are students that are court appointed at this point to be within a rehabilitation facility, usually for behavior due to them using drugs, right? Mm-hmm. You're 6 years old with heroin. You don't even know how to make a rational decision for yourself or anything else for that matter, let alone making the decision to do drugs. So they were here, and they most of the time served about a half a year, which is 180 days for some of the facilities, some more. But they still had to receive education because we have laws in place, right? Where you have to have free and available education to these students as long as they're willing to come and receive it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was one of the facilities that I worked in order to work with students to help them with their reading comprehension and their math. Yeah.
And how old were you at that point?
I was 31, 32. Yeah.
Okay. So how did things unfold from there, Tara, for you?
Well, how things unfolded from there as far as me teaching, I also wanted to make sure that kids knew the importance of building a business. I've owned a business since I was in college. I was a notary public. And I did roller sets, which basically you wash the hair, you dry it out, and
roller sets.
Roller set,
okay,
yeah, for
okay.
the women's hair, a roller set.
Okay.
So I would do roller sets in my dorm for $20. And I just, figured out a way to make it. I got a full scholarship undergrad to the University of Memphis. And I had that money to take care of my education, which was my books, my housing, and all of that jazz, right? But I still had to do other things and purchase, personal items and blah, blah, blah. So that was my first business. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to make sure that I also taught business education, because kids need to know the importance of not only owning a business, but managing their own finances as well. So I've always taught either business ed or special education. Those are my gems.
Where does this drive come from?
The drive to teach. The need.
Look, come on. You're a young kid. You're getting involved with helping others, and then you start getting involved with, helping kids who have severe problems, issues going on. Mm-hmm. You're involved in business and creating opportunities for others at a very early age. Where does this come from for you? For
me, it came from seeing a need where kids were not being addressed the way they needed to. They were not being provided the information. People were not having the necessary conversations. So I'm like, if no one is going to have that, and I know the information to share, why not do that? Why not make myself useful and provide the information? And I didn't just get this information out the sky. I mean, I have some amazing ancestors. My granny was a homemaker during my time, where from birth till 30, she did not work. So in the summertime, for the whole summer, I'm talking about May to August summer, I was in Mississippi with her, shelling peas on the front porch, and very humble beginnings. My grandfather was a warehouse worker, but he also knew the importance of home ownership. So he had several homes that he owned because he owned his own real estate company. So he owned several homes on the same block that we lived on, actually. But the humble beginning with that, and for my parents, allowing my grandparents to play such a major role, and they knew that. They knew I needed that extra love, I think. They never really said it, but I think they actually knew it, and my grandparents definitely were available to give it. So that's where my give come from. It's more like I know that it's needed because I was that kid once upon a time that needed it. I've had kids in my classroom that have cried on my shoulders because they needed an answer. They want to know. It's like people think that they don't want to know God, but they really and truly want to know. And so that's a way for the grown-ups, to cover it up and say, oh, well, I'll just keep it to myself. They wouldn't understand it anyway. Well, they understand everything else. Like, it's a lot of complex things that kids really can grasp their mind around that some adults can't. So that's where I think all of that pretty much the passion for it. I've been doing it for 20 plus years at this point. I've worked with kids that the principal has actually brought to my room and said, Miss Seals, I can't do anything with him, and he listens to me. Or a principal is trying to fight, the student is trying to fight the principal, and I'm having to say, I don't think that that's a good decision. Are you using your smart brain? Blah, blah, blah. So Yeah, that passion for me knowing that it's necessary because I was once that kid that needed that love, that affection, that extra, what is it? Attention. Okay. The extra attention that you need as a child when certain things are going on in your household. And so I could see it because I had been through it.
So when did you start writing?
I didn't start writing, Guy, until 2017. It really wasn't my thing. I'm a math girl. I love math. I can do math all day long. Numbers, numbers, numbers. And I could write. I mean, but to actually write and put my thoughts on paper or in such a way of a book, like, of course, I've written essays. I have an MBA, MAED. I had to write something, right? But to get personal with it is different. So, yeah, 2017 was my first debut as a self-published author. And I authored Bossy Is as Bossy Does, The 5 Keys That Open Doors. So that was the first book.
Now, where does this term bossy come from? What's the origin of that?
Yeah. So growing up, people always like, oh, you're so bossy and this is that and the other. But my thing is, if you're sitting here and we have a decision that needs to be made and you're not being assertive in figuring out what the answer is going to be, then I can definitely make that happen. I don't mind doing the research and going the extra step. Sometimes people are just lazy, so they'll just call you bossy because you're willing to go the extra mile. So that's where the term bossy comes from. One of my assistants, she has called me bossy from the beginning. Like, she's never called me Tara a day in her life. She always said, hey, bossy, how are you going? And it's not a negative thing. They love it, actually. Everybody gets a kick out of the Bossy Educator when I tell them, my character. And they're just like, that it describes you so well, because it's kind of like, I want the people to know, but we can't give it to you if you're not a willing participant. So that's where bossy comes from. Just me taking care of the business and handling it, Guy.
So the book Divorce, the Unspoken Childhood Trauma.
Yeah.
When did that come about? Why did you write that? Give us some background on that. Let's dive into that.
Absolutely. So I wrote the book in 2021, and I wrote the book because there's a need for children's voices to be heard when divorces are happening. Their voices matter. And divorce is an unspoken childhood trauma. It's something that people don't talk about. Let me
just interrupt you for a second. I mean,
sure.
I just got divorced.
Okay.
So this is so I'm all ears here. So okay. I just have to say that. So, and Absolutely. I've got 2 kids. So go ahead.
Yeah. And that's good that we're having this conversation so that you can understand and hear it from a child's point of view now in my 42-year-old body. But my 8-year-old self is writing this book reflecting on how the dismantling of my household affected me. It affected me. And I didn't have, my parents didn't say, oh, well, we're going through a divorce. We're going to put you in therapy, blah, 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 blah. But my friends that know my story, they always call and ask me for advice when they're going through a divorce, when they're thinking about it or considering it, when they have children involved, because it's a big deal. Yeah. It's not an easy decision.
So your parents got divorced when you were young.
Yes.
So what did you want to communicate in this book specifically?
Yeah. So in the book specifically, I'm communicating what happens, the breakdown of my parents' relationship, specifically due to my father's infidelities continuously. Also us being in a tragic fire. I explain all of that in the book and how the whole situation unfolds and the sacrifices that my mother was willing to take to make sure that her children were okay. While my dad, on the other hand, took care of us financially. And that's something else that I talk about in the book. I have a whole chapter called What is Child Support Exactly? Because like parents just use it as a loose word around their children. Well, I pay my child support. Why is she asking me for something else or whatever? And I just think that that's not cool. I think that that's a conversation that should be had between 2 adults. Children shouldn't even know what child support is. Like, why is it even necessary? Because they're not the ones that's paying it. And sometimes they're not the ones that's benefiting from it either, to be quite frank, guys. So
the unspoken childhood trauma, you said when I asked you about this book, you said a lot of people aren't talking about it. Say more about that. What do you mean?
Yeah, it's like it's a secret when it's happening in the households. It's unspoken childhood trauma because the children usually do not have an outlet to speak about how they feel about what's happening in their house. For me, in the book, you'll learn about my granny and my fourth grade teacher, Mrs. Owens, that were those outlets. I've always been the type of kid, because of my situation, I have always been very good at going out and finding my village, right? At church, I found a village. In the Girl Scouts, I found a village. Shout out to Miss Cowan, my Girl Scout troop leader. Her daughter actually just wrote a book. I found my village within my swim team that I had. I never learned how to swim because I had a terrifying experience, but I still found, my village in these different places. At school, among my peers, I found my village too. But the school that I was in, although we moved 9 times, from the time I was born until the time I was 18, okay? 9 times I moved. The thing that my mom kept constant was school. She never changed my school when we moved. Yeah. She always kept the school the same. So I was at the same school and I was able to really get that village. My piano lesson teacher, Miss Carolyn Gardner, she was a part of my village. Some days I was so drained from the thought of, okay, I wonder this evening when my mom pick us up, is my dad gonna stop by? Because it was an in and out situation. And then, the next day you realize that he's not gonna come back for a few days because they're into it and whatever, or maybe the woman that he's living with, because he was living with a woman while he was married to my mother. So how is that not trauma? Like, that's a lot of moving pieces for a kid. And I was reading this article some time ago, like the time that it affects children the most for divorce is between like ages 7 and 14.
That's exactly my both of my kids, one's 7 and one's 14.
Oh my God. Yeah, between the age of 7 and 14, it affects us the most. And that was during the time that my parents divorced and I declined in school.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And I remember I loved school, but I started to decline in school because I couldn't focus. With adult bullshit, in my head. But also one of the stats too, Guy, which was very alarming to me, is that children of divorced parents are 3 times as likely to commit suicide. I mean, it was just like, I was doing all this research, while I was writing the book, because I wanted to make sure that I was fair in my delivery of what I was saying. And although everyone may not agree, it's my book, right? It's my thoughts.
Sure.
But for me and my situation, these things definitely were applicable. Yeah.
In my experience from my situation, a lot of people are like, oh, you'll get through it, and it'll the hard times will pass, and kids are resilient, and we always hear that in a lot of situations. But in terms of kids moving through this divorce, do you have recommendations for how parents should guide them through this?
Absolutely. Well, first, before the divorce, once the parents are aware, Guy, that, this is not the jam anymore. The thing is not thinking. At that point, because first, the parents have to be honest with themselves as individuals. Okay, Guy is in my jam anymore. Such and such is in my jam anymore. Boom. Those are individual thoughts. Then you all have to collectively come together at some point, right? Because a marriage is a collection of 2 people, a man and a woman. And I'm married. I've been married for 13 years now. So I know how this works. So you come together, as a collection on so many different things in a marriage that you wouldn't even think of before you get married, by the way. Right. And that's what's really cool about the book, is speaking from a place of not just for people that are divorced, going through a divorce, but also things about, I even say in the book, be careful who you breed with, because God forbid something happens and the thing is not thinking anymore. and now you're in this situation. So once the parents come together and have that conversation, I feel as if, because we already know, we give these kids, oh, they're resilient, oh, they'll make it through, oh, they'll be okay, because that's to make the parents feel better about themselves and their decisions. So let's just be 100, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But once we include the kids in the conversation and let them speak for themselves, you will be amazed at the things that kids will say. Because I'm a teacher that the kids, I've been teaching for 20 plus years. The kids come and tell me so many things that they never open up to their parents about, because they just feel like there has never been a space created that is safe enough, that is comfortable enough for them to just really be honest and pour out their feelings.
Well, that rings true for me. I mean, what do you do when, my youngest is 7, so she's really young, but my son Finn is 14 and he doesn't want to talk.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to talk about it, and
he's shut down.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. And also it's really hard because for me and my mom have always gotten along. We have our differences, we're women, it happens. But with my dad, like, he was my favorite person outside of my granny. Like, he played his music loud and he understood the latest fashion. He got it, right? Yeah. So for that to be removed and he's down the street, right at a mile or less than a mile away from you, living with a woman that you're like, where the hell did she come from? And why is this person being called my brother, but it's not from my mother? What do you do as a kid? So I'm sure he is shut down, especially at 14. Like, I always say the sooner the better. Like, as soon as you see it's happening, hey, because if you have kids mixing the jam and they're at that age of 7, really kids come into who they are at age 3. So the stats say, right? So by age 7, she knows her daddy. He knows his daddy. I can tell you what his favorite gum. Like, it's so many things that you know about a person when you live with them. But then when you don't live with them anymore and it's a part-time thing, and now the kids are being shuffled around like an NBA game every other weekend. Not fun.
So if you're calling this the unspoken childhood trauma, what are you suggesting in terms of a healing path or healing journey, or how do we even begin to address that side of this?
Well, I think the healing journey begins when the parents are, they hold themselves accountable. The accountability has to be there. It starts with the parents. The parents are the people that decided to get married. I love you, guy. She love you. Y'all get together. Y'all get married. Boom. And then some people do the kids before the fact, but I'm just still saying, the natural order, so to say. But they get married and then the kids come into play. And now it's kind of like, okay, so I was just used to it being me and you. Now, what do we do with them? I was used to taking a 20-minute shower. Now, what am I supposed to do with that? So if these conversations are not had before a child comes into play, then what do you do? So we plan everything else, right? Like, if you see that your car starts to sputter, you're like, it sputtered 2 days in a row. Let me go check that out. So why do we check out everything else, but we don't check out what's happening in our own household? And that's affecting our kids. And kids need an outlet too. The same way you may lean on your mom, dad, sister, cousin, or whoever, kids find their outlets. So I went off to school and told my mom and daddy business because I was about to explode in my brain with grown folk bullshit. I couldn't deal.
You say parents need to be accountable. What do you mean specifically?
Well, be honest about their role in the shit.
Okay.
Be honest about your role. You know what?
In the divorce.
To
the kids.
Before it happens.
Okay.
Hey guys, dad loved the women. Okay. And I just can't stay out of these other women's beds. Or if you don't want to word it like that, if your kid is real young, you may just say, dad likes to make other choices other than mom sometimes. And mommy is not happy about that. and daddy is not happy just picking mommy. So I just, including them and being responsive. And then when as your child gets older, you parent differently. You don't parent your child the same at 2 as you do at 7 and go and so on, right? So as they get older, you can start even having even more mature conversations, which I would have appreciated from my parents, especially now. I'm 42. I've been married for 13 years. I get I understand why my parents are not married. Okay. I get it. I know my dad as a person. I know my mother as a person. So I totally get why it wasn't a jam. The thing stopped thinking, right? But also when you're going outside of your household and you're working on other things instead of the thing that's at home to kind of bring it out and figure out what's happening, and you're including outside sources, you'll never be able to, make the thing at home, right? So I think that accountability, and then the accountability on the mother part too. Oftentimes, to be totally honest, because I have a best friend that just went through a divorce probably like 5 or 6 years ago. He's just now figuring things out. They say it takes about 7 years after divorce to get it figured out.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So hold on tight, guy. Hold on tight. You got it. But his divorce was horrible. I mean, horrible. And she's still not a great co-parent currently, but he looked back and he's like, Tara, she was really never a good parent. It was always him that was doing everything. So it was kind of like, if I'm your underwriter on everything, then it's going to look as if the half is whole because I'm the one that's figuring everything out. So, but holding the woman accountable too is something that we don't like to do, but she just wasn't a good mother. She just wasn't a good wife. Sometimes it happens. The woman doesn't always have it figured out. So I think that's something else that we have to put into the mix of the conversation is holding women accountable, because it's like bang, 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 bang when it comes to the men. He's the reason why. But also the stats say that I think it's like 80 or 90% of the divorces are the divorce is started. The whole process is started and filed by the woman.
Wow.
Yes. I'm gonna have to send you that article. I'm gonna have to email it to you so you can get that. It's very interesting. I think it's a good reader for you for sure.
So in terms of moving along the healing journey for these kids, you're saying parents have to be accountable. What else? What else helps kids move?
So once the parents are held accountable, then they can see themselves and say in the mirror and say, you know what, because this change, this is a drastic change. It's not like, oh, she'll be okay. Oh, we're just changing the bread from white to wheat. It's not that, okay? It's not that. It is a huge change because now parents are shifting. And sometimes I think parents don't understand what change it is because they had a double parent household. For example, my mom, her parents were married for 53, 54 years. She knows nothing about going to her dad's house on the weekend with a woman that says, hey, y'all can sleep in the guest bedroom. You know what I mean? So they don't know. So once you don't know what you don't know, unfortunately, which is the reason why I say today's time is no reason to not know when you can go pick up Divorce, Unspoken Childhood Trauma. There it is. Divorce, Unspoken Childhood Trauma, and get the information. It's there. It is available. I want people to understand that it's something that is okay to talk about. And it is an unspoken trauma because nobody talks about it with their kids. My friends that have been divorced, I said, well, did you talk to your kids about this? No, I was mad. So you're just upset with the other parent that you're dismissing the needs of the child. So once you figure out the needs, you hold yourself accountable, figure out the needs, speak to your children about it. Definitely ask them, who is it that you trust, baby boy, baby girl, that you feel comfortable with sharing your deepest thoughts about me and your mom's transition to being divorced. If it's not someone, and if it's me, that's great. I'm all ears. Would you like to write about it? Would you like to make a PowerPoint presentation? Be creative, okay? Write some sticky notes every morning, put a sticky note on the window and tell me how you feel this morning. With my students, I always do a 3, 2, or a 1. Tell me if you're a 3, I'm feeling amazing. 2, I'm okay. 1, Miss Seals, I'm just not feeling it. And guess what? I also tell my students my rating as well so that they'll know what jam I'm on. And that way I kind of know how to deal that day. And then I do a pulse check in between. The same thing you can do with your kids. Hey, babe, I know, you returned to your mom on Monday. I had to drop you off. I pick you up on Friday. I drop you off on Monday. How did you feel at school on Monday? Baby girl, oh, well, Dad, it was okay. I was a 2 all day. I was thinking about you and the things that we did. And when I go back to Mom's house, she has a different set of fucking rules. It's the truth.
Right.
And then if a child is transitioning, guy, guess what? You got to remember the rules over here. Oh, I forgot. Over here, we use the dishwasher, but over here, we wash dishes by hand. And it's just, so it's so much better when the parents have a conversation so the damn rules can be the same or something.
Hang on a second. Let me just remind everyone that I'm speaking with Tara Seals, the Bossy Educator. Tara, what's the best way for people to get in contact with you?
Yes, so I am everything, thebossyeducator.com. You can find me on Instagram at thebossyeducator.com. You'll see the books there. You'll see my merchandise, which is my boutique, Body Decor Boutique. The podcast is there. A phenomenal event that I just created, the Talk Tank, is available as well. Go ahead and sign up for the newsletter because last year we sent out 4 million plus opportunities for scholarships and programs and hands-on trainings, aviation, all kinds of jams when it comes to education. So thebossyeducator.com, all things Tara Seals.
So look, you're incredible. I mean, you're obviously on a mission. What's your mission?
So, Guy, my mission is to provide educational resources to parents, to K through 12 schools, to government agencies, everything that's affecting our kids. When it comes to educational resources, I'm specifically talking about being a parent advocate. I've actually created a subscription for parent advocacy because so many parents don't know where to turn. They don't have the answers. They go to the schools. They're not being supported, unfortunately, not because the schools don't necessarily want to support, but the schools are short on staff, guys. I mean, it is a crisis.
Right.
It is seriously a crisis. I'm in it. I'm not lying. I know what I'm talking about. I've taught elementary, middle, high school, collegiate level, guys. It's a crisis for real. So, I suggest, that people really start to take education more seriously and really look into those educational resources in order to help your children learn and grow. So that's what I'm all about, helping kids learn and grow, helping parents to understand what their kids' needs are and to identify them and find a solution. Like we find a solution to everything else, find a solution for education for your children and create that communal relationship with the schools. You just needed more than one set of eyes on your babies at school. There's a lot of things going on at school, doing transition on the school buses, things of that nature. If you can, just text your teachers and say, thanks so much for being an amazing teacher to Adam. He loves you so much. I mean, just the small things that count with the support with the educators. So I'm all about supporting educators, all about supporting education. And bringing the knowledge and the information, guy. That's what I'm very, very passionate about.
Wow. Tara, I really appreciate you being here. I'd love to have you back a later time. And super inspiring, super positive too.
Yes,
absolutely. You talk, and I think it's easy for you to skip over how impressive what you're doing really is. I mean, not everyone at your age is doing all these things when you're a young girl and helping all people. I mean, it's really impressive and it's inspiring. I mean, I'm awesome. I really appreciate you being here.
Thanks so much, Guy. I appreciate you and the Trauma Podcast. I appreciate the existence of it. These are conversations that need to be had. Of course, we can't talk all day, but we can give tidbits of information that help people just kind of think about it for a moment and stop and, just not exist, but actually live and do the things that they're here to do. It's easy to talk about it, but my favorite mantra is bossy is as bossy does. You know, it's all about doing it. Anybody can say it, but doing it is a whole nother jam.
All right, Tara, we'll be in touch. Take care.
Absolutely.
All right.
Bye-bye.